morning, everyone. Wanted to check in. Welcome to Streams of Fitness once again. Wanted to talk today about something that's been on my mind that I think is very crucial to success. We've talked about goal setting success. We talked about why resolutions fail, especially this time of year. We talked about structure and systems, and just dialing it back a little bit more. I think one of the important things to talk about is being realistic. Realism. Looking at your particular goal or aspiration and thinking about the actual feasibility of it. Is this something attainable? And that's not to be pessimistic or discouraging anybody. I think it's just a way of it's kind of a system in itself. So first, the first thing about being successful is looking at your environment, assessing your situation. And the best way to really put it is being realistic. Can I realistically do this thing that I set out to do? I'll give some examples. I remember my son when he was little, he used to say, when I grow up, I want to be a bird. Like, well, that's nice, but you neither have wings nor a beak, and you're not going to fly. Maybe you come up with a modification, but maybe you can fly planes, but you will never actually be a bird. And that's an extreme example, but it's kind of gets at the root of what I'm talking about. A lot of we'll keep it here at fitness. Again, Streams of Fitness, we talk about the intersection of physical, mental, and financial fitness, and with those things in mind, we'll talk about ways to find success in those areas, at the intersection of those areas. Again, I'll start with the extreme. Let's start with financial. Well, somebody might say, well, I want to be a billionaire. Okay. How are you going to get there? It's not there now. So, if you want to look at that, look at the possibilities of that, you want to, look at the, one of my mentors talks about game. You got to have game, and I thought this is one of the coolest acronyms that I've ever heard. Because, a lot of people talk about, within an athletic in athletic context, they talk about, having game. Can you play? Are you any good at what you do? So, let's talk about game. With game, the acronym, we're talking about a gut check. First of all, that G being the gut check, look at realistically, where am I now? What am I now? Who am I now? Whether this is a financial situation, and I said we'll start with billionaire. So I'm not there now. What is the distance between me and billionaire? Me and my financial situation and billionaire. And then the A, you go to the A is audit. So you got to audit all of the aspects of your life. in all of the aspects of your financial situation and how you get there. What are all the things involved? What are all your expenses? What are all your sources of potential income? Anybody that's become a billionaire is more than likely using the eighth wonder of the world, according to Einstein, which is compounding interest of some sort. You're not just selling a billion widgets for $1 and for nothing, and then having $1 billion. That's not how it works. So you got to audit that, and then you go to the M of that. M is going to be to mimic the masters. So why reinvent the wheel? What are other billionaires doing? There have been some people have hit the Powerball and won $1 billion or more than $1 billion. That's probably not going to last, because you get a blessing like that, you gotta know what to do with it before you get it. Otherwise, it'll be gone in a heartbeat before you know what happened. But what are other billionaires doing? How are other billionaires making their billions? Have they invented something phenomenal? Have they made phenomenal investments? And what are those investments? And what are their strategies? Study those things and mimic those things. So what you come to realize with most people that have any wealth is that I guarantee you the vast majority of people that have a significant amount of wealth have a significant amount of real estate holdings. That's just plain and simple. Even look at people that, entertainers, athletes, movie star, whatever. If you're going to keep your money's got to be somewhere where it can grow. And what grows better throughout antiquity other than real estate? Real estate appreciates. So most people are into that sort of investment in one way or the other. And the last thing, so that we're at GAME. So gut check, audit, mimic the masters, execute. So once you figure out a plan to get to where you're trying to go, through A, realizing where you're at with your gut check, auditing your situation and all of the situations, the income and expenses that are involved in your situation, mimicking the masters and figuring out, all right, what are they doing and what can I do to mimic them, and then how do I execute on those things, on that mimicry? How do I, if Warren Buffett is investing in this, how am I investing in that? Probably not millions of dollars at a time. Maybe I'm starting with $5, or and how do I get to that? What is the mechanism for me to invest that $5 and to watch it compound and to invest $5 more tomorrow? Whatever the thing is. But it's doing that, and it's executing a system. Okay, so let's move over to mental physics. I want to have the nerves of steel. I want to be the self-confident person that has the ability to stand up in front of large crowds and present and get my point across. What's my gut check? Well, my gut check is that I've been terrified of public speaking. I don't like crowds. I don't have any self-confidence. I'd rather run and hide and be anonymous. Well, okay, so to get from here to there is going to be quite a stretch, but it's not impossible. So got to audit. What are the things? You know what? I've listed some of the things already in this little mock audit. I may be a person that is not self-confident at present. I don't like crowds. I don't like speaking. I don't like being the center of attention. I don't. These may be realistically your situation. Mimic the masters. Well, I got to look at who do I admire in this regard? Who do I wish that I could be like? I've seen somebody speak and I thought, man, I just really, if I could present like that, then I'd be doing something. I'd be cooking with gas. Now I know for me, that's somebody like, if I look at Eric Thomas, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, great speakers like that. So when I look at, some television personalities that have a presence, for a certain generation of people. Walter Cronkite was the guy on the news where if he said it felt like it was true. Like for my parents' generation, that's what that was. So it brought a certain level of weight and respect when that person spoke, because of the way they spoke and the integrity and the just the reputation that they had. So that would be part of your mimicry. So maybe you're picking one of those people and figuring out how to, what are their mannerisms, what are their what things in their whole presentation are making them look like somebody that you'd want to mimic. So there's that situation, and then execute. How do I execute on that? Well, with most things, you're going to execute something like that by figuring out the small steps. So, if speaking with authority and speaking with presence is your goal, then and overall self-confidence is your goal, and at present you speak in kind of a whisper and kind of a shy tone, and nobody can hear you because you're not confident in what you're saying, then maybe the first thing to address is standing up straight and speaking loud and speaking with confidence and authority about those things that you know about. If you are an expert at washing dishes and somebody asks you a question about washing dishes, then damn it, tell them exactly what you know about being a successful dishwasher. I mean, it literally starts from wherever you are at. So now I'm gonna look at the last part of that and really go into a little more depth here, because this is somewhere I can definitely relate and have a lot of experience. So athletically, again, being realistic. Do you have game? Can you put game into your situation? I always like to tell people to look at your situation and figure out, if somebody says, hey, I want to win a gold medal in the Olympics in the 400 meter dash. Okay. Well, let's look at your gut check. Do you currently exercise? Are you currently a runner? Are you, have you ever run that distance? What does it take to get from here where you're at, whether you run or you don't run at all, to there, to being able to compete on the world stage in a big stadium in front of thousands of people and run one lap in 44 seconds. You know, that's perhaps a big stretch. So I'll take it back into, you know, something a little bit more relatable. So I hear a lot of kids say, I want to be an NBA player. I want to be Michael Jordan. I want to be Steph Curry. Um, and, you know, if anybody knows me, they'll know that I have a lot to say about Steph Curry having ruined basketball, but, you know, not in the way that you think. Steph Curry is, um, I'm getting off on a tangent, but that is, you know, you want to talk about a big fan. I'm a huge fan, and you know, it makes it even better when you be a huge fan of somebody that is on your local team. And it would be a tragedy if Steph Curry were a Laker or something. And then I would probably be inclined to fight back feelings of hate about his abilities and his tremendous skill. But he's on my team, and he's always been on my team, and I'm a long-suffering fan of this team, so it's okay for this to be my team, because I've been with this team since we were terrible. But I digress. Anyway, more on that later. But you want to be a pro basketball player. Okay, that's fine. Where are you at now? Oh, I'm on the JV team. Or, you know, I'm in junior college, but I'm not on the team. But, you know, I play at the park sometimes. Like, okay, well, we got a lot to do to get from here to there. Are you physically fit? First of all, that's going to be one thing that's going to really play into it. You know, audit what it's going to take for you to get physically fit. Do you have an understanding of what it takes to be a professional athlete? It's a lot more than being able to put a ball in a basket. There's, you know, that's what you see. You don't see, you know, like they say, like, you see a duck floating on the water. You don't see what his feet are doing, working furiously underwater, behind the scenes. You know, same thing with professional athletes. It's just not, you know, when the lights go on at 7:30 and it's game time. There's so much more to it than that. So much more preparation that you couldn't even imagine. You know, so that's your audit. You know, mimic the masters. Okay, well, if I'm trying to be Steph Curry, or if I'm trying to be LeBron James or Michael Jordan, I've, you know, what you see is you gotta take shots. You gotta take a lot. You know, so Steph Curry. Okay, I'm guaranteeing you, Steph Curry is taking 1,000 shots from every spot that you see him hitting shots from. So if you see him make the top of the key 3-point shot from 25 feet, I guarantee you he took 1,000 shots from that spot on a given day. You know, you see him taking one from the hash mark. I guarantee you he took 1,000 shots at that spot. So these are, you know, these are things to consider. And that's not even half of what he does. There's, you know, a lot of people think, okay, well, I'm just gonna catch and shoot. Yeah, that don't work. Somebody's got to be guarding you. You know, you got to be able to get your shot off. But again, that's a whole other conversation. And execute. You know, you once you realize that, okay, part of this is taking those 1,000 shots at each of those locations and developing a mastery there, then um, it's going to be incumbent upon you to execute that and have a system to make sure that gets done every day at full speed, at game speed. Um, you know, with defense, with, you know, and we haven't even talked about the ability to get open, to get your shot off, to, you know, there's ball handling, there's court awareness, there's levels, there's all kinds of stuff to that. But let me rein it into something that more attainable to most of us. So just, you know, we all have social media, we all have television, we all see maybe people that um, you know, maybe somebody that's really fit that we want to look like. I know for me, I used to look a long time. I was a I was the skinny kid. I'm still thin, you know. And to look at somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger, or when I was a kid, it used to be the Incredible Hulk, used to be on TV. Lou Ferrigno. Um, when you're a kid or when you're somebody that's not realistic, you look at that and you're like, yeah, I could be Arnold. I could be there. There's a whole thing of genetics and build that, again, as part of the gut check part of this, success is going to be determined by a realistic baseline. So what I realized, I'm 6 feet 7 inches tall. For anybody in international locations, that's 2 meters, 2.007 meters. So I'm not ever gonna have the build of Franco Colombo. Look him up if you don't know who that is. Lee Haney. Look him up if you don't know who that is. These are people that have been Mr. Olympia, Mr. Universe, but these are people that are like 5'8". We're just flat out not built the same way. So I'm never gonna look like that. You get, first of all, it's about choosing a realistic goal physique. If physique is what you're looking at. So for me, that's somebody like, your basketball types. I played college basketball, and so very familiar with a lot of players that were similar in me to style and build. So for me, it would be somebody like Scottie Pippen, somebody a little bigger like Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning was always real cut and strong and muscular and imposing. Giannis right now. Giannis is long but muscular. He's cut. These are realistic. Not easy to attain, but more in the realm of realism for somebody that's built like me. Ladies, same thing. If you are 5'2" and you're comparing yourself to, I want to look like Serena Williams. Well, Serena Williams is about 6 foot. Venus Williams is about 6'1". It's just pick a realistic role model, and then as part of your gut check and audit, figure out, okay, what's realistic. So if I'm 5'2", let me pick somebody that's 5'2". If I'm genetically kind of a thicker person, let me look for somebody that is genetically similar to how I want to look, and let that be my model. Because try as you may, like I said, I'm never gonna hold the mass. I could eat I could eat 1,000 pounds of food a day and work out for hours, but my frame simply does not hold weight to look like an NFL offensive lineman or defensive, any of that. I'm never gonna look like that. So that's just not in my my DNA. So be realistic there. So get the gut check there. I used to, like I said, I used to look at Arnold, but not to say that I don't discount Arnold. Arnold is the master. You definitely want to look at what you want to look at, how to work out. Look at Arnold, and then there's other things to consider when we all look on social media and such. Is this a natural phenomenon here? I have some friends that have been successful and competitive professional bodybuilders. Shout out to Nick Townsend, San Jose's finest. And one thing that I became aware of from conversations with Nick is that there are clean athletes and there are athletes that take substances, and that's fine. That's their choice. That's that's that sport. But it is what it is. If you are not planning to be a person that partakes in those type of things, then that person as your role model becomes less realistic. So again, for me, gotta scratch out Arnold, gotta scratch out plenty of other people I see on social media, and I gotta look at somebody that's relatively built like me, Scottie Pippen, Giannis, Alonzo Mourning, in their prime, and that's gonna be my when I'm auditing and figuring out, okay, what is the output, what is the end game, that's going to be the end game. Mimic the masters. So I got to figure out, what does a person like this do? Are they just lifting weights? Are they running? What kind of running are they doing? Are they distance running? Are they sprinting? Are they swimming? People, are they cross training, or all these type of different things. And then I got to look at those things and how they relate to things that are realistic for me to do. Do I have access to to be able to swim? Do I have access to be able to lift weights all the time? Do I have access to a personal trainer that may be able to get me to where I want to go in that regard? And that will help me to make sure that I can execute. So again, this is all success breeding success. It's realism. It's having game. If you want to have game, you got to be realistic with your game. So I will leave you with that today. I've said a lot. I hope it's been helpful. And stick with us at Streams of Fitness. I'll be continuing to give you more good information, but my goal is to make sure that all of you can have success, and that you have a path and some guidance to that success. So make sure to like and subscribe. Talk to y'all soon.